What was the first thing you remembered coming
Here,
Yes.
the first thing that I remember are the freeways. Because coming from the airport all the way to, it's the freeways and the fog. Because, oh, in the Philippines, there's no fog. It's smog. Smog. Smog, that's normal. But in here, oh my God. And why are the streets so empty? Because in the Philippines, it doesn't matter what time. There's always someone on the side of the road. It doesn't matter if it's an expressway or a freeway. There's always someone in the road, in the middle of the road, something in the middle of, and garbage is everywhere. So by the time I got here, I'm like, damn, this is clean. This place is clean. It's fog. It's not smog, and it's the freeway, and the driving is really fast. Like you can go from point A to point B really fast. In the Philippines, it will take you a long time to get from point A to point B, even though it's just a few kilometers away. So, and we lived maybe just a few miles from from the airport that time. And we got home like really fast. I'm like, that's really far. For me, that was already really far. That's what, like 5 miles, 6 miles, good 6 miles from the airport to our house. But it was fast. I was like, in the Philippines, I might have been already gone into where? And then you started you know, transponding like you currency wise, the time wise, and then you're like, it's morning in here in the Philippines. Yeah, it's gonna be. Oh, it's evening in here, so it's gonna be morning in the Philippines. And oh my God! And then by the time I look in the window, out the window, I'm like, gosh, where are the people? Because I'm used to, by the time I look at the window, there are people in the streets. They might, even though in the middle of the night, even though they're sleeping just in the middle of the road, there's always someone in there. But in here, goodness, it was only 8 o'clock. I remember it was only 8 o'clock, and there's no one. Like the streets are dim. All you can see is just street lights and cars, parked cars. So that's what I remember. And it was cold. Yeah, it was really cold. That was, well, even though it was April, it was spring. It's cold for me because I that's like from 90s, 80s to what?
70s, 60s.
50s because it's nighttime. 50s, 60s in April. Yeah, it's cold. So that's what I remember: the fog, the traffic, the road, and the street. How empty the streets are.
What were your first impressions of the US?
First impression, I I can't really remember what was my first impression. The first impression that I said to myself was the cleanliness, because it's way different. It's wet because of the moist and the fog, and for me it was sad, as I would remember, because it was sad. It was way different. I was saddened by the sun culture change, the change of how I got used to having all the fun, all the noise, all the perkiness of people, and it's everyone, like you know everyone, but by the time you get here, you don't know anyone except for my aunt. Like every day in the Philippines, every day you will meet the same people. Like 90% of the people that you see every day, you know them already. But in here, like the people that you bump into, unless you've been here for a long time, of course, you're gonna know that. But that time I feel like I was culture shocked because it was different. It was, how am I gonna survive? I feel like I wasn't gonna survive, and homesickness during that time for me was really bad because I cry, I call my mom, and by that time, calling in the Philippines was really expensive. You only have a few minutes by your $10. And we only have what? My grandma only gave us what? $40 as our pocket money. That's already big. $40 is how much in the Philippines, and that's already big. but we were able to work on that and ask our aunt to give us a few minutes just for me to call my mom and be like, "Oh, mom, it's so boring in here. It's different." So that's my impression. It was sad and I was culture shocked.
So how was life here?
Life, all those 14 years, it was it was up and down. I had my fun times. I had my good times, especially having my sons. Those are my precious stuff. Having my sons. Those are, for me, those are my achievements because there are they are my treasures in life. So those my life in here has been a roller coaster. Very roller coaster. Like you're gonna throw up because it's too much of a roller coaster going up and down. So, but it was okay. I was like what I said. I was able to adjust in how life is in here. And if you're going to ask me if I can see myself back in the Philippines than here, I don't know. For me right now, it's different now. It's different. I was able to adjust in here. I know the lifestyle in here. I grew up in here now. Most of my adults, well, since I became an adult, I'm already here. So I was able to adjust in the adult life and my life in here. I knew U.S. more than Philippines now. That's what I'm saying. I don't even watch CFC as much as other people does. I prefer to watch English channels. I don't know. I I got used to that. There are just certain shows that I like seeing in the Filipino channel or GMA or other, Pinoy channels. But I prefer to watch, and when it comes to renting, I prefer to rent movies that are
In English.
English. Yeah. So
I think you already answered this, but what was the most difficult adjustment for you?
the most difficult adjustment for me, like what I said, is the fun time. Because I was still on the peak of in between of being a child and being an adult. That I was 16. So it was hard. It was hard for me to all of a sudden lose my friends, all my friends that I grew up with since I was a child. That's the hardest part. Losing my childhood friends and having no one in here and have to be to need the need to have a company, like a friend. Of course, there's nothing compared to your friends in the Philippines, which you have known and grew up with. But that's the hardest part. I think that I would. It's the adjustment of losing the people that you already have trusted, and you have to adjust in this foreign foreign land compared to the one that you call home. But now I was able, like, adjustment was okay. Well, it took years for me to be able to get into that peak that, yeah, US is my home now. But before, US wasn't my home. For me, Philippines is still my home. But now it is my hometown. But my home is in here. I cannot see myself living there every day, like normally, like permanently. I cannot see myself in there. It's bringing my sons or my life back there. I think my life could have been worse if I lived my life in there, if I stayed in there. But who knew? But all I'm saying is that I was able to adjust now, because I can see myself growing up in here and retiring in here than in the Philippines. It's fun in there, yeah. If you have money, if you have a lot of money, oh, it will be way, way fun. But fate doesn't work with me financially, so I do not have that pleasure to say that Philippines will be really fun to live as permanently.
Yeah. Compare well, comparison life here in the U.S. to the Philippines.
Like what I said, it's different. Life in there is just not too much, not too much seriousness in when it comes to in looking in life, and very in the Philippines. I don't think it's fast paced. Way different than here. It's always fast paced in here. You work, you go home, you do the same thing again the following day. So that's the difference between it.
Did you maintain contact with Ethiopia?
Oh yeah, I still have friends in there. Like my whole family is already here, so most of my, uh, uh, so most of course I don't have too much reason to go home, but I've been going back there because of the people that I knew before, so I kept contact. Yeah, I still know them. They still say hi and hello. Facebook is a big thing. Facebook, uh, then they have all of these apps that you'll be able to video call with them. So all those stuff.
So in the past 14 years, how many times have you returned to visit?
I don't know, maybe like good 6 times. I guess 6, 7. I can't. I lost count, but a few times. Not more than 10, but less than 10.
What do you miss most? PI.
It's the craziness of the Philippines. It's the fun of the Philippines. That's what I miss. The fun, the food that I always miss. Like there are certain food in there that you cannot find in here. You cannot easily. You can find it in here, but you have to work on finding it. But in there, it's just right by the streets. You can easily. You don't have to go to a lot of stores just to find a certain thing, or well, I'm still lucky because I'm surrounded by Filipino stores in here. Not like when there are people in the north or in the mid US that they do not have the pleasure of having stores one after another that sells Filipino foods or Filipino stuff. Like they not like me. They even ask me to send them stuff here and there.